have the old Ibanez on the bench today. The fancy Inlay. And it's not in terrible shape, but the neck is kind of warped a little bit, I think. Got some dead spots in the neck. And I'm just going to go ahead and refret it. Level the neck and then refret it.
What are you crying for, Lucy? See where the beach, well, did I send that to you where the Beach Boys are going to be at the Paramount?
Right here we have inlays that are quite a bit lower than the fretboard. You could feel it when you played the guitar. So I just flooded it with super glue, and I'm scraping it down with a razor blade, get it really close, and then do some sanding, and hopefully it'll polish out. But the gap's already gone though. There was a huge ridge right there, and you could actually feel it when you're playing, especially if you're bending strings. These two inlays right here, you can feel a huge gap right on the edge. Not now. So anyway, I'm just scraping it down. Get it flat. Take the bulk of it off, and then sand it and smooth it down some, and then polish it. Should be just fine then. One thing for sure, it'll be way better than it was. Guitar almost fell off the bench. Well, we got the old notch straight edge on here after level sanding, and I filled those inlays in. Got them nice and flat. Looks like we're good and straight and flat now, all the way across. All the way up. Which is good. Much better. I always say the key to a really good fret job is a good flat fretboard. Flat and level to start out with. That's what we've got here, and I'm happy. Now we're taking this little tool here from Stuart McDonald. It's got this little sharp hook on it, and clean all the debris and dust out of the fret slots. Get those ready to put frets in. Gotta be really careful with this and not let it slip. I have done that before and gouged out a big hunk out of the fretboard and had to repair it. Also, it could slip and rip your binding off the edge of the neck too, so you gotta be careful with that. Don't ask me how I know that. See all that crap coming out of there? Sanding dust and glue. You gotta get all that out of there, so the fret tangs will go down in the fret slot deep enough. I see a few little tear outs that I'm going to have to fix. you get the point. Just got to do all the fret slots that way. Clean them out. Use a shop vac on them, compressed air, blow the dust out. I forgot to mention, when you're putting new frets on, you want to get some good, at least the best alcohol that you can buy at the store, and wash and scrub your frets, your fret wire, before you put it in there, because it usually has oil and corrosion on there. So make sure you do that. Take a rag and wipe it off where the tang is, so that way if you put glue in your frets, it'll stick to your frets. Now that I've hammered these frets in up here, now I can start using my fret press, my handheld fret press, on the uniform part of the neck right here, because you know where the neck heel meets the body right there, it's got the curve in it, and this won't work very well on it, so that's the reason I hammer. But now I can start using it and press them in and start going pretty fast now, pretty quickly. like that. Press them right in there. Might need to tighten it up just a little. Try it again. These fret presses are way too expensive, but they're handy. You can change the different calls right here for your different radiuses. Change that brass piece for wherever you want. But anyway, I'm gonna go down through here and press these in. Shouldn't be long now. Got all the frets in. Now I'm just going up through here and checking the level with the fret rocker. If you have a high fret or a low fret, when you rock this thing back and forth, you'll feel it. These are really good. There's only a few of them that have just a little bit of a, barely a little rock. So there shouldn't be much leveling and recrowning that I have to do with this, which is always good, because that's the suckiest part of doing a fret job, is the recrowning. Pretty good. Right now I'm putting some super glue, CA glue, down in the fret slots. I've got this little micro applicator here, just kind of letting it wick down in the sides of the frets and go down into the fret slot. It's easy to make a mess. I've tried putting the wax on there and all that kind of stuff, and it just doesn't work for me. I just usually wick it in there, and if I make a mess, I take a razor blade and just scrape it clean after it dries. It's usually what works best for me. Just try to keep it as close to the fret as you can. Let it soak down in there into the fret slot. You can see the little applicator I've got here, and I've got this other little pump bulb. I don't know what you call these, but you got to watch. It leaks right here. You see that getting ready to leak, and it will leak on your finish and on the places where you don't want it to leak, so be careful with that. Now I'm just taking a razor blade and scraping some of the glue that's visible on the edge of the fret slots, scraping it off. Just get in the crevices. Like I said, I tried that wax. Probably need to try a different wax, though. I don't think that wax worked very good that I had, but that's all I had. I'll have to get me some Johnson's paste wax and try that, but I never did try the wax thing. I always just do it this way. It ends up getting a really clean look. Even if you use the wax, you got to scrape it anyway, so I don't know. I may give it another shot. But just go along and do both sides of the fret until you get rid of the shiny glue that's showing on the fretboard. Now I'm just going through here and checking all the frets with the fret rocker again. It seems like they're all pretty good. So should be just minimal leveling. Everything's really pretty good. There's a little tiny one right there. There's a little bit of one, you can hear it. Just a little bit right there. I mean, there's a little bit on the edge. But that's because I did really good prep work on it before I put the frets in. The flatter you can get the fretboard, the better off you are, because you won't have as much dressing to do and leveling. But you almost always have a little bit to do at the end. Do a little bit of recrowning. There's just a little bit right there. Most of the problems have been on the edge, the very ends of the frets, the fret ends. So I'll run my leveling beam over that. There's one right there, a little bit. There's one. 21st fret there's a little high, looks like. We'll take care of that. So that was good. Put the old leveling beam on there, give it a shot. Got my leveling beam here. Got some 220 sticky sandpaper on there. This is weighted, so you don't even really have to push down on it. It's really nice straight and level. And it's good to put on here and just see what we got. I know that we have a few on the edge, so I'll just start out with that. I'm not pressing it down, putting any pressure on anything. I'm just letting it sand with the weight of the beam itself. I'll do that a few times, and you can look at the frets and see which ones are high. When you got high frets, those are the ones that are going to have scratches on them from the sandpaper, and the low ones are not going to have any scratches because they're down too low for the sandpaper to reach it. So I'll do a little bit of that and see what we come up with. Now I'm going to come in with my homemade nipper pliers, end nippers, and you can see this right here, it's ground really thin and flat, so that way I can get right up to the ends of the frets and nip them off. Just gotta go along here and start nipping them off as close as I can to the binding. Kind of press up against it. Sometimes you got to get one started so you can have room to get into the next one. Want to keep pressure against the binding, kind of push against it. Make sure that the pliers don't pull back or pull up. Could pull your fret out of the slot. I've glued these in, but they could still come out if you're putting a lot of pressure on them. This saves a lot of time when you go to filing the fret ends, because you've already got them down pretty close at this point. Regular end nippers that you buy at the store won't work for this, by the way. You have to modify them and make them flat and thin. Next thing I got to do is file these fret ends down. I nipped them with the nippers. Now I'm going to take my diamond file. This is a rough one. This is what I do the rough end work with. And then once I get done with that, I'll show you another file that I made that keeps the angle exactly the same all the way down through there, so it looks like a factory job. Better than factory, actually. First I just take this and I use my fingers on the back side of the file, let these rub against the top of the fret, keep the file from getting down too far and getting into something. Just take it easy and be careful. Kind of get it roughed in. And once these get close, then I'll get my special file out and start using it. This just roughs it in real good. Actually, it's almost there. Got a little bit more up here to do. And should be ready to use my other file. But these diamond files, man, they really cut fast and save you some time. So I got to do that and do the other side, and then I'll bring you back. This right here is my specialty block file that I made, and it's 90 degrees from the surface right here. And the file's at 90 degrees. So when you put this part goes on the fretboard, and this sticks down just far enough, and I can adjust that how far I want it to go down and overhang right here, and just go up and down through here like this. You can hear it. You'll hear the sound change when you get close. When it's making that grinding noise, you still have more to go. You can visually check it as well. Still have to be careful with this too, because it'll come off there and go across your freshly leveled frets if you're not careful. These are almost done right here. Almost got them flat. Sounds pretty good. Pretty cool. Homemade tools. I've made a lot of them. Done a lot of refrets with this baby right here. Yet another file here that I'll hit after I do the 90 degrees. See, this one's angled just a little bit. I think this is either 25 or 35. I can't remember. I made this one too. But I don't like for my frets to be overly beveled on the edges. Tends to cause your strings to slip off the edge of the neck annoyingly, and plus I like the extra real estate of the frets coming all the way out, so I'll use this and just slightly bevel the edges of the frets, and then I'll come in with my dressing file. I'll show you that too here in a minute after I get done with this. Works the same way, just rides along the top of the frets and puts a slight bevel on the edge of the frets so they're not sharp. Just like this, both sides. And again, this file is just sticking up just enough to where it doesn't touch the body down here or hit your pickups. You can always take your pickups out, but I didn't need to in this case. So, got to do this, and I'll bring you back for something else. Now, I'm just going to come in and use my little fret dressing file and come in and dress the ends of the frets. See, you have a safe edge right here, and it's kind of rounded. Also a safe edge here that's sharp, that you can get right around the edges of the frets where you tend to have those boogers that hang up when you take a rag across your frets and get little strands of fabric sticking to your frets. This helps eliminate that, and also makes it feel smooth on the edge. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'll start out with a rounded edge. Just round them over just a little. Take the sharp edges off the frets. I don't like to do too much because, like I said, I like my frets to hang out there pretty far. Just want to kind of round them over like this. This file's pretty sharp, so a couple strokes is all you need on each one, really. Takes a little bit of getting used to get this where it's smooth and where you can do the motion smoothly around through here. Takes a little practice. Got to kind of round them over a little bit. And what you're going for is to make each one of them even. It'd be real easy to round over some of these frets and they all look different. When you look down, sight down the neck, you want them to look all uniform down through there, like a machine did it. And if that doesn't get down into the edges enough where it still feels sharp, you can take this sharp edge of the file here. But you got to be careful because it'll dig into the edges of your binding or your fretboard and make marks that you can see. Well, I'm going to finish this up and I'll bring you back with the next step. Next, I'm going to round over these frets where I leveled them, recrown them. I've got this centered Z file. Since I don't have that much to do, I like to use this. This file really, it's diamond coated. is really too fine. It takes a long time to do much work with this, I think, especially if you're working with stainless. In this case, I'm not using stainless, so probably it'll do just fine. So I'm going to hit that little lick. I'll show you a little bit of how that goes. I want to kind of rock it from side to side a little bit. There's two different sizes. I've got extremely large frets in this one, so I'm using the largest size on the Z file. And then you can see, you gotta look real close, you can see when you get the flat spot rounded off on top of the fret. Anyway, got to go through all of them and do that. Then next will be polishing. You pretty well see now, I've got them all crowned. They're all rough and scratched. Wish I could zoom in really well so you could see the scratch. But I'm using a GoPro to film this, and you can't zoom it. I'm lucky that the damn thing's even working. So the whole idea is to take the fret, and it's going to have flat spots on it if it needed leveled. From where you run the leveling beam, you want to take your file and make it round again, because it's going to have, like I said, a flat spot on the top. You got to do both edges until you bring that to a peak, and it's just a little tiny thin ridge right in the very center of the fret. You don't want it lopsided. You want it to be even amounts of material removed from each side. If you're watching this video, you probably already know a lot of this stuff, but for the sake of the people who are attempting this journey on their own, beware. It's not as easy as it looks. I've done lots of frets, hundreds of them, and I pretty well got my method honed to the way I do it. I mean, I try different things every now and then, just like I tried for the first time. I tried a wax on the edge of the frets to keep the super glue from sticking to the fretboard and the fret. It didn't make any difference at all. Probably I'm going to try a different wax. I'm not going to ride it off, because I've seen other guys do that, and they probably wouldn't be doing it if it didn't work. Or could be that they just learned it from someone else and they do it because they think that's what they have to do. I see a lot of people doing that too. Oh, so and so does it this way, so I'm going to do it that way. But usually what you do is you figure out, I mean, you learn from everybody, and then you try to figure out your own best way of doing things. There's no one right way, I don't think. The end result is what you're looking for. You're wanting a good smooth fret job and not scratching up the guitar, and it's easy to take your tools and slip and gouge the guitars. I've done that. I've scratched the fretboard, I've dug into the binding, I've done all that stuff, and you just kind of get better at it and practice and learn how to do it. And if you're on a real expensive, this is my guitar, so I'm not really worried about it. I mean, I don't want to tear it up, obviously, but if this was someone else's guitar, I would tape all this off, tape the pickups, either take the pickups out or put some tape over top of them to protect them, double layers, and even up here on the headstock and around the tuners. And I'll tell you what happens. It happened to me on this, is when you're filling up with glue in here, sometimes that glue is so thin, it's water thin super glue, it's actually thinner than water, they say. It will come out and go out and around and get on the back of the neck, and it'll etch into your finish or just cause you problems. One little piece that happened to me on here. Usually that doesn't happen with binding on there, because the binding tends to hold the glue in the slot, but this one did. It's so thin, if a little drop of it gets around, it'll run all the way around behind the neck and cause you headaches. So sometimes it's best to just, if you got an expensive guitar or you know, something that's worth you know, sentimental value to you or whatever, you may want to take precautions and tape everything off that you don't want to touch, because it will happen. A file will slip, or a fret slot cleaner, that real sharp blade will come out of there and scratch. I've done all of that, and it's like, oh no, when it happens, why didn't I tape it off? But anyway, what's next? Polishing, sanding. Got to go up in the grits. I just take sandpaper, and sometimes I'll take a piece of foam that's kind of round shaped, and just go back and forth on the frets, and it kind of helps round the edges of the frets too, and it smooths the very top. You're not really looking to take a lot of material off. You're just wanting to mainly just get the scratches out. You've already leveled everything. You want to just evenly sand all the way up and down, and you can tell when it's getting close. And I have the fret erasers that's got grit in them. They're down in this box of stuff here. I don't want to dig for them, but anyway, StuMac sells them. They're outrageous price like everything else they sell, but they're okay, but they'll wear you out. I mean, you go up through the grits. I always end up coming back to the sandpaper and get up to around 1,000 grit or 1,500 grit, and then I go for polishing compound and a buffing wheel. You can either use it on a drill. I've got one rigged up on a drill right here, little buffing wheel. I need to change it. I've got a new one, but anyway, that does a real good job, and it doesn't take forever, and it doesn't wear you out. I'm all for getting stuff done quick as I can, but still keep the quality. Actually, it does a better job than if you would try to do it by hand. You'd be here all day and not even do as good a job. Anyway, that's the last step, and then I gotta, make a nut. I don't know if I probably can't use that same nut. I may put a shim under it for now until I can get a chance to make a new one, because the higher frets obviously are probably going to fret out up here. I'm not sure yet. I'll check it and see, but almost done. Sanding and polishing, and should be ready to put the strings back on it and do some adjusting on the neck and all that, because I had to adjust the neck to level sand it. You don't want a back bow. Usually your neck will go into a back bow, because when the string's on it, it's putting tension on there, so your truss rod is counteracting that. You take the tension off from the strings, and that's going to let your neck go back in a back bow, which is like a upside down banana, in case you don't know that. So I've got it straight right now. I checked it with my little handy dandy notch rule here. I don't know if y'all, I think I showed you all this earlier. It fits over top of the frets. It's got little notches in it, and that'll tell you if you're flat or straight or not. So that's the next part. I'll show you some of that here in just a second. Basically what I'm doing here now is I've got a piece of 500 grit rolled up with a piece of foam. It's like one of those little foam thin sanding blocks in there. Just got it rolled up to make it like a finger in there. You can even use your finger if you want, but making it round like that. And if you've got a fretboard that you don't want to sand a little bit, yeah, you can always tape it off, in between the frets. But I tend, when I've got a rosewood or ebony, I like to sand along with it, because it gives it a unbelievably smooth feel, because the sandpaper just hits that just enough. Like I said, it's not taking off much material, it's just polishing it, and that's starting to get really smooth. And the inlays, when I take the buffing wheel to it, I'll polish those inlays a little bit. I had to do some filling. I didn't show it on the video, but some of these inlays, these are abalone, fake abalone I assume, but it's very elaborate, nice inlays. If this was a Gibson, that'd be $10,000 for that inlay job. Anyway, two of these were really low. They had a substantial ridge. You could feel it when you play. You feel it, going across there, and it was probably, I don't know, I didn't measure it, but I'm going to say close to 30 seconds that you could feel the ridge where the inlay was down into the fretboard too deep. They just didn't do a good job measuring it. So I took CA glue and just kept on filling that up and hitting it with the accelerator, and then I scrape it with a razor blade, and I kept on doing that, and I got that filled in, and it's perfectly smooth now, and it's nice. And then once I polish it up, you'll never know that I did that. You can use CA glue for a lot of stuff on working on guitars. I mean, it's magic stuff. You can also ruin a lot of stuff if you use that thin stuff like I use. It gets all over everything if you don't watch. But anyway, just take this and just start going up and down the frets. You also want to make sure, see, I don't have anything protecting my guitar. You don't want to, it's real easy to let the edge of this paper get down when you're doing this and make a big scratch in your guitar body too, so you don't want that. So just be aware of that. Don't ask me how I know all these things. Just do this all the way up, and you can see it taking the scratch out. And if you have to, like I do, I put on some really strong reading glasses and get down very close where you can see, and until if you've got all the scratches out. You don't want the scratches because even when you start polishing, a lot of times you'll have the frets real shiny, looks like glass, like chrome, but you'll still have these little scratches in there. And when you bend your strings, you'll feel that it feels like grit, and you don't want that. You want a nice buttery smooth fret, so when you bend it just feels like a real expensive guitar. Better than a factory guitar, because they don't take the time to do all this stuff. That's why, you know, if you have somebody that's really good at doing refrets and takes pride in what they do, your guitar will play better than it's ever played. Even way better than a new guitar usually. But anyway, this is this step. I'm gonna do a little bit of this and probably go up a little higher grit. And then next thing is just get the buffing wheel out after it. I'll probably put some oil on this fret first too, on the fretboard. I'm gonna be using some lemon oil. Works great. It's just mineral oil with a additive in it. Lubricate that, and this is really dry where I've been scraping it and sanding on it, this rosewood, so I want to get some oil on that. Plus it helps for when I buff it, and helps the compound come off there instead of sinking into the wood, because it's already impregnated with some oil. I found that it helps get the buffing compound on there. One thing too, if you've got a maple neck and you don't like, it's got wear places in the finish where it's down to bare wood, and you don't want to if in case you don't want it to stain, you don't want to start buffing that with the compound, because once it starts, you know, taking some of the material off these frets, it turns dark gray immediately, and it will get down into the pores of your wood and it'll stain it. I think it looks cool, it just looks like wear, but some people don't like that. And if you don't like it, make sure and tape it off with some painter's tape, each fret in between the frets there. That way when you polish it, you won't be staining your fretboard. That's one tip that you might want to know. Okay, I'm going to finish this up and then bring you back on the polishing process. I went ahead and took it up to 2000 grit paper. Got this automotive 2000 grit paper right here. Does a good job. It's really smooth, and got it polished as much as I can with paper. And now we're going to go for the buffing wheel, some compound, some people call it. Can anybody tell me why the British call aluminium? How do they get minium out of N-U-M? Num. How do they get neum out of that? Just curious. If there's any Brits watching that, tell me how you all come up with how that says aluminium. One of the many wonders of the world. Anyway, let's get that buffer going and make a mess here. But one thing it will do is it will make these frets look like chrome, and that feels good when you bend, and I love that. All right, here we go. One thing I want to mention about if you decide you want to use one of these, you know, you can reverse the direction of a drill. You can go this way, or you can go this way. So here's one thing I want to tell you for using one of these. If you're going this way on your neck and your drill, I don't know if you can you see the direction that's turning? Looking down at it, it's going clockwise. You want to go from the middle out to the left edge of your neck. You don't want to get over here, because if your wheel's turning this way, it will catch the edges of your frets or catch your guitar and throw it out on the floor. Again, don't ask me how I know all these things. But when you get ready to do the other side, reverse your drill and get it going this way. So that way it goes smoothly over the edges of the fret ends. Never this way, because it will catch. See, try to catch and throw your guitar. So that's just one tip you want to do first. So let's get started doing a little bit of polishing. You'll see it immediately start looking better. So I'll go this way and this way. I'm going to go long ways first. I'm a little bit dry. Hang on, I'm going to put some compound on here. Now you can use metal polish, like like a paste metal polish. This is my favorite. This Blue Magic metal polish is really good, especially for aluminum. Of course, there's Mothers and Met Paul. But anyway, I got this fine, extra ultra fine, it's usually white, compound. What you want to do is don't want too much on there, but get you a good coating of that on here. And we'll start polishing. You'll see the difference right here. Oh yeah. And I'll turn and start going long ways on them. Remember what I told you about the direction of your drill. I'll start on from the center out towards me. The drill's going to be looking down at it clockwise. Just polishing my inlays too as we go, and as well as polishing the fretboard. Really smooth, nice surface. What I'm thinking of it too, if you decide to use a drill or a high-speed buffer of any kind, you don't want to stay on your binding for very long because it builds up heat and it will melt your binding and it'll look like crap. Keep moving. Now I'm going to reverse it and do the other side. Accidentally caught that right there, went a little too far, and came loose. Oh, I see. My nut came loose. It's got a left-handed nut in here, and sometimes that'll come loose on depending on which way you're going with the drill. Constantly having to tighten that up. I don't have the wrench. There we go. But see, it's got a nut on the back here, and it's left-handed. And it comes loose all the time. There we go. So look how nice it's making that inlay. It's polishing that up, especially these ones that I filled in with CA glue. You know, man, they're going to look good too. I'm going to add a little more compound. It's really time for a new buffing wheel. I need to go ahead and do that. I'll probably do that on the next job. Just add some more compound on here. he's starting to look nice, shiny. Looks good. Oh yeah. Anyway, you get the idea. I'm trying to keep this video short. All my videos tend to be pretty long, so you get the idea. Just remember the direction of your drill. You don't want the drill going this way and catch your guitar and take off with it. So always have the drill going in the direction that coming off of the fret, not going on the fret, coming off the edges, and you should be okay. Still be careful though, because it can catch. It does it to me still, and I've done a lot of these. Well, we got it all finished up. Got the strings on there and the pickup set back pretty close, and action pretty well where I want it. It's gonna have to settle in. Everything's on. I don't have the truss rod cover back on there. I had to set the truss rod. I'm gonna get my buddy to play some for you through a Mesa Boogie Nomad head and some kind of single 12 cabinet here. Anyway, on the distorted channel, on the rectifier channel, just check this out. Pretty cool, huh? Sounds great. Plays good. You said it plays pretty good?
Oh, it plays phenomenal.
All right, cool.
Especially the bending.
Yeah. That's those buttery smooth frets from all the sanding and polishing. Really tall frets too. That's the tallest fret wire that I can find anywhere in the world.
If you can get it there.
It's just, I wish I could zoom in on it, but it's 58 thousandths tall, I think. That's the tallest I can find. I'd like to have even taller than that. If I could find it, I would get it, but that's as tall as I can get. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next one. I got another one. The list never ends of guitars I need to refret, but I have one I got to refret for a customer, and another one I'm going to refret for myself that I play out live. So if you follow me watching any of my rock and roll gigs, I'll play this guitar on my rock and roll gigs, and along with a couple other rock and roll guitars that I have. But this is safe to say I won't be playing this on my country gigs when I do my country show. But this is a great little rock and roll guitar, hardtail, stays in tune really well, sounds really good. That's the reason I took the time and effort to refret this guitar, because it sounds really good, especially when you crank it up. It's good for metal, it's good for classic rock, it's great for everything. The neck position pickup sounds really stratty, which I like. I don't like a neck position that's real fat and creamy. I just don't like that. I like more of a strat neck position tone with a little bit of glassy squawk to it, I guess what you call it. Anyway, we'll see you on the next one, guys and gals, and I don't know when I'm going to come out with another one. Maybe next week I'll start on that other guitar. I've got a really cool looking American flag guitar that's got inlay on the whole front of the guitar. mother of toilet seat, and it looks unbelievable. And it's got a flame top to go along with that underneath the inlay. It's just killer looking. So look forward to that one, and we'll see you. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and leave a comment and thumbs up if you like this video. We'll see you next time.